when I was about the equivalent of junior high here, in Peru we don't have junior high, it's either primary school and secondary school. I had a first class in anthropology. So I heard about anthropology and I was fascinated by it. In fact, I first was very attracted by physical anthropology, evolution, the monkey and everything, and then, learn more about the cultural aspects, and I knew I wanted to be that. My parents are from a very small town in the Andes, and I was studying or living on the coast where a different kind of culture exists, and I had spent my life going back and forth doing 2 or 3 different kinds of cultures. And also it's fascinated by what I saw back where my parents were from, and why are they doing all these things that seem very strange to people in the other world that I lived in. So I was very fascinated by music, dance, festivals, religion. I was just, you see my room is full of masks, and I was just captured by that. So as soon as I knew that anthropology was a discipline that can take me that route, I said, I didn't even think of, what am I going to do with this or anything. I just I knew I wanted to spend my life doing that. I knew I wanted to be an anthropologist. I studied anthropology, and towards the end of my career in college, I met my current husband, who is American, and we were living in Peru, and he proposed that we would come to the U.S. and do graduate school. I said, graduate school, it's interesting. Okay, I'll try it. I wasn't planning to do academia with anthropology. What I really wanted to do was apply things. In fact, I wanted to be a mediator between all the different cultures and issues that came up having to do with ethnicities and race, and issues in Peru that had to do very much with with knowing about cultural differences and so on. I wanted to start doing that. I wasn't planning to do an academic career, go on a PhD or anything. First of all, because that didn't really exist in Peru at the time, and secondly, because of my family resources to be able to afford to do that anyway abroad. So then little by little I became an academic, and I loved it. I mean, I loved the whole idea of having time and being paid and getting grants for doing research. So I went to the University of Chicago anthropology department, which at the time I think pretty much still like the top in the country. So I was very lucky to have a great education there. So lucky enough to get their support. Didn't have a cent to go to graduate school, so I got full rights for all my studies. I had full support, and then got a wonderful job here at UC Davis. I was first hired by the music department because part of my work is in ethnomusicology. I was there and then transferred to this department in 1999. And yeah, so UC Davis was my first job, and it'll be my last. I'm not planning to go anywhere. I'm very happy here. So I had a pretty good combination of doing sports and being a good student. I'm trying to think. I'm not saying that I'm perfect or anything, but I'm just saying that I always was a good student in the sense that I loved what I studied, and I was grateful for the opportunities. I wouldn't say habit necessarily, but something that I didn't develop as an undergraduate was to maybe explore more activities that were outside my sports and academia. I mean, maybe I should have taken more time to just have fun and join clubs or do other things. I don't know if that's a bad habit or not, but I think I would advise any undergraduate to kind of do other things besides your studies and your exercise, always explore other worlds. Being a professor means you are allowed time for doing your research and writing, and that I think is very important for your teaching, because you're intellectually stimulated and you're up to date into what's being written and stuff like that. And So I like that aspect of being a professor. And the teaching part, what I enjoy the most, what is the most rewarding, is probably for everybody, is when you find that students find what you're teaching fascinating. You have students come to you and tell you, wow, this was life-changing, or this gonna, or they write you back, after they graduate, and they say, what you told me about this has been so useful. So that, I would say, is, what I enjoy the most. I mean, realizing that what I give can be of use to people in their lives. I think any intellectual thing we do has to have a specific application to helping others, to making this world better, or whatever. So I find that when students tell me that about their lives, or their specific works that have nothing to do with any kind of intellectual pursuit, but anything that they were able to apply to their lives, I think that's rewarding, the most rewarding. I have learned to take my time and do other things, have a life. Take time off with doing nothing. I love the Arboretum. I love the Arboretum. Yeah, it's so peaceful and so nice. And music and exercise, those are the two things that have been my spaces for relaxation and enjoyment. I grew up doing lots of sports and all that, and anything that has to do with exercise. I mean, I love playing volleyball. Actually, I still play volleyball and pick up games with other people. Person, I love music. I play the charango, the Andean guitar. So I started to be interested in learning piano, so I started. Free time, yeah, practice piano. And I hate the most, because it's affecting my life every day these days, is when people talk to you and are looking down at their phones. Oh my God, it kills me. When I talk to people, I look at their eyes. I don't look down or look that way and talk to you. So what bothers me the most is when somebody's talking to you and looking down at their phone. I might sound like a cliche. If I had a superpower to end racism, I wish I had that power, because I do believe that is so preeminent almost everywhere in the world. Maybe not Switzerland, I don't know. Everywhere in the world that I've been to, racism, and which is based in ignorance. A lot of it is based in ignorance. So if I had the power to end the element of racism, I think that I would use it. I grew up with very, very blatant racism against indigenous peoples. Yeah, my parents were from the Andes. My father in particular was very indigenous, and I grew up with that, and I lived. And then, of course, being in the U.S., then I became a Latina, which I didn't know I was. I became within the category. I've experienced that on my own. A person of color also. So I've lived that through my own personal life. So it's not in theory, but I've lived it through my own. And in doing research, I believe that that's the cause of terrible things that have to do with economics, with politics, and so it's based on life experience and also research. Right now, I just finished a film, documentary, on a pilgrimage that Quechua speaking, Quechua being the largest Native American language in the Americas, and it's the language spoken by millions in the Andes today, the Andean countries of Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador. Most of the speakers are in Peru. So I work with Quechua-speaking people who do this pilgrimage once a year in the movable date between May and June to the sacred site, which is very syncretic. It's a mixture of native beliefs and Christian beliefs, Catholic specifically. And so it's a pilgrimage that is done with music and dance. Pilgrims go as musicians and as dancers. So I've done that pilgrimage 3 years, 2006, 2008, 2010. And I did this documentary, which actually got its first official selection in a festival already, and it's being distributed by Berkeley Media, a good distributor of academic materials. And I'm working on the book for that, and I'm looking at the experience of the walk itself, what I call the sensory experience, what the importance of the forms of knowledge of indigenous people that have to do with their visual, auditory, and kinesthetic practice of the walk. And I'm postulating that this is essential for the form of the basic form of learning for Andean people. That meaning that the way in which people learn and remember in the Andes is through a combination of the three elements: the kinesthetic, the movement, the sound, and the visual. So through the study of this experience of the pilgrimage, I'm proposing a way of understanding Andean culture at large. So I've published several articles already on that in English and Spanish. All my publications are English and Spanish as a commitment I have. And I am in the middle of writing the book itself. For this project, I received a John Simon Guggenheim Fellowship. That was very, a good stimulus for me to move this project forward. And now being the chair of the department is not allowing me too much time to finish it. But in no rush. I really am, again, like I said, I'm writing book chapters and I'm writing articles. I'm writing about it. The book itself, I'm kind of letting it to take shape by itself to then have my third book out sometime in the next couple of years. Yeah, I'm excited, very excited. I actually chose to teach an honors program class because I had experience of giving a guest lecture in a class by a colleague of mine. And I just felt so great when I presented my work. Actually, I presented my film and talked about the pilgrimage. And the students were so amazing, were so receptive, had the best questions ever, that I said, oh my gosh, I gotta start teaching in this program. This intro class, what I do is I present in a very general and sometimes superficial way all different contemporary issues that face Native Americans today. That today, if you were to take some snapshots at the more or less current important issues for Native Americans throughout the hemisphere, which is about from Alaska to South America, and take snapshots at what the indigenous people are facing, what are some of their also not just pressing political economic issues, but also cultural elements and all that. So an opportunity to give students a snapshot, and a lot of people don't have any idea. Some people don't even know that they're Native Americans in the U.S., right? Let alone they're like most of the indigenous peoples are south of the border. There, millions of indigenous peoples here and there. There, dozens and dozens of native languages is still widely spoken, stuff. So I am really excited to present all this information to an audience of really dedicated students that would maybe absorb that more than a sponge and would come back with questions and challenges, which is the most enjoyable for a professor. If you can walk, you can dance. If you can talk, you can sing. Because I think singing and dancing would make this world so much better than it is. But Nelson Mandela's saying is the one that is really it's really important because I think if everybody believes that they can be, or they are this diamond in the raw, and it's your duty to really be that diamond.